Hello everyone, it's Seth, probably better known as Saffron Olive, and it's time for another edition of Budget Magic. So this week, we are heading to Kaladesh Standard for a deck I'm super excited about. This is a deck that finally is able to take advantage of a couple of cards I was really super excited about that just haven't really worked out so far, but I think maybe we finally found a home for them. I'm calling this deck Blue-Black Key Control, and as you can see, only 64 bucks in the paper world, 19 ticks on Magic Online, so pretty close to the ultra budget range. A quick reminder before we break down the deck. If you enjoy Budget Magic and you enjoy this Blue-Black Key Control deck, it would be super spectacularly awesome of you if you could take a minute, click that subscribe button down in the corner of your screen. It's a great way to support the channel and the site for free. So Blue-Black Key Control is built around Key to the City. That's where the name comes from. This is like the most important card to our deck, but we are using Key to the City in a way that's unlike pretty much every other deck in Standard. So we've seen Key to the City see play, but it's mostly used by like pseudo-madness aggressive decks that want to use it to make creatures unblockable. Our deck doesn't care at all about making creatures unblockable. I mean, we'll do it on occasion, but that's not really what this deck is about at all. We're not particularly aggressive. What we use Key to the City for is as an instant speed free discard outlet that lets us kind of play the control game, leave up counter spells, leave up removal, and then madness in some really powerful cards at the end of turn. Also, it becomes this card advantage engine, like this personal Howling Mind. It costs mana, we gotta pay 2 to draw the extra card, but the neat thing is, it might look like looting, and technically it is. You discard a card, then you get to draw a card if you pay 2 when it untaps. However, if you're discarding cards that have madness, you're not really discarding them, you're playing them. So it becomes tap it, play a really powerful card at instant speed on our opponent's turn, and when it untaps, we get to pay 2 and draw an extra card, so we keep cycling through our deck. It is just super awesome, and I've been amazingly impressed with how good Key to the City is in a really controlling, with some madness synergy build, but not an aggro build looking to make things unblockable. We also have StromKirkCondemned, which is like bad Key. It doesn't draw us cards, but it is another free discard outlet. The problem with StromKirkCondemned, and like I said, we're not an aggressive vampire deck. The creature type is really not relevant. The pumping vampires really isn't especially relevant. I guess like we can use it to pump StromKirkCondemned to attack through a Sylvan Advocate or something, or block a Grimflayer, weird things like that. But we're not like pumping up our vampires. It's not a Vampire Lord. It's just another discard outlet that's free, lets us play our stuff on our opponent's turn. The thing I dislike about StromKirkCondemned is it dies to removal. The trick with Key is no one tries to kill Key. Like, when they see our deck, they probably think Key is like a one-of or whatever, and they don't know that Key is the most important card in our deck, that it's the thing that makes our entire deck work, so no one's bringing Fragmentize to kill our Key from this biddy, especially when they see the rest of our deck isn't playing any artifacts, so it seems very unlikely that our opponent's going to bring in Artifact Hate to fight Key, so we just have free reign to just go off with Key, even in post-sideboard matches. On the other hand, StromKirkCondemned dies to pretty much anything. Grasp, Declaration in Stone, Stasis Snare, Harness Lightning, so it's not as consistent of a discard outlet as Key, but we wanted to have at least 8 discard outlets to make sure we had ways to play our powerful madness spells, and this is the card I'm most excited about, From Under the Floorboards. So From Under the Floorboards, when it was spoiled, I looked at it and I was like, wow, this is like the Black Sphinx's revelation. Yes, we technically don't draw cards, but for 2 and X, if we can madness it, we get X 2/2 zombies, and we get them tapped, but we'll talk about that in a minute, and we gain X life. So this is like a card that stabilizes, makes us a ton of zombies. So this is kind of the other key piece to our deck. We get our Key out, we're drawing cards, playing the control game, disrupting our opponent. Eventually we're gonna have like 5, 6, 7 mana on the battlefield, and we hit our land drops pretty consistently, hopefully, since we're drawing extra cards with Key to the City, and then we just madnesses at the end of our opponent's turn, get like 5 zombies, 10 power and toughness, split across a bunch of bodies, we gain a bunch of life, we untap and just beat our opponent down. It's almost the same as Rise from the Tides. We don't get as many zombies, but we also don't have to warp our deck to make it work. So this is kind of our finisher. From underneath the floorboards, we're drawing these extra cards with key, make a bunch of zombies, beat down, hopefully get more from under the floorboards. And then we also have Welcome to the Fold, which can do some really cool tricks. It's a way to steal creatures. We play it at instant speed. Thanks to our key, we can tap, madness it in, steal an opposing creature, and it can lead to some pretty big blowouts where we can steal a creature that our opponent didn't attack with and use it to block a creature that is attacking. For 5 mana, we can steal Smuggler's Copter. Since we're a budget deck, we don't get to play Smuggler's Copter on our own, but if we steal our opponent's Smuggler's Copter, we will definitely take advantage of them. So it's just a really powerful way to interact with the opponent. It's kind of an expensive removal spell, but it gives us the creature rather than putting it to the graveyard. And then, last but not least, we have Errand Praia, which is our other finisher. This is our answer to Emeralds and Ulamogs. We can madness this in for 3 mana. Then using perhaps our From Under the Floorboards tokens, or some more cards we'll talk about momentarily, we can flip it around, make our opponent sack 3 creatures, gets rid of pretty much anything, and leaves us a huge flyer in the air. So this is how we close out games, and it's this package of cards. These cards are what allows us to play the key control role. So we leave up our mana, leave up our counter spells, leave up instant speed removal. If we don't have to use those cards, at the end of our opponent's turn, we just tap our key, get to cast creatures and sorceries and all this stuff, mind control effects, and these huge token generators at instant speed thanks to the madness effect. So it enables us to not have to tap out on our main phase hardly at all. We get to play almost exclusively at instant speed thanks to our discard outlets and these madness cards. The other package we have is for Errand Praia. We do have Haunted Deads and Prized Amalgams. These cards do double duty, so we're not really a dredge deck. We use these cards for value. We use them because they work great with Errand Praia. If we get a Prized Amalgam in the graveyard, get back a Haunted Dead from the graveyard, we get the Spirit token, that gives us exactly enough creatures on the battlefield to sack 3 creatures to Errand Praia, flip it around. Plus, in the early game, we can just discard these to key. Play a key on turn 2, discard a Haunted Dead, draw an extra card the next turn. Discard a Prized Amalgam. They're just free discard stuff. We can also use Haunted Dead as a backup discard outlet. Not as good as our free ones because it takes 2 mana, which means less zombies with From Under the Floorboards and so forth. Less toughness stolen with Welcome to the Fold. But it's still another discard outlet in a pinch, and these cards enable us to maximize our Errand Praia value. As far as the control package, 4 Grasp of Darkness, 4 Spell Shrivels, like I said, instant speed stuff that we can leave up, use them if we need to, and if we don't need to, we just activate our key, play powerful threats at the end of our opponent's turn with Madness. So this is kind of the control element. Grasp kills a lot of things. Spell Shrivel makes our deck pretty good, I think, against Aetherworks Marvel, against Emeralds, things like that other decks have a really hard time beating, and those are really important cards to beat in Standard, so having main deck counters is a great hedge against those decks, and we get way more in the sideboard as well. And then just 1 Ruinous Path, basically to kill Planeswalkers. It doesn't really work with the instant speed plan, but it's some way to make sure we can get a Chandra or a Nahiri or a Jace or whatever off the table. As far as the mana base, Blighted Fen, Blighted Cataract, again, leave these up. We can use them on our opponent's turn to draw cards. We can use them to kill an opposing creature. Blighted Fen, also a great answer to Emeralds and Ulamogs. So we leave these sitting up. If we don't need to use them, discard something to key, keep drawing more cards, play our madness stuff. The rest of the mana base, just some dual lands and some basic lands. In the sideboard, we get a couple more sweet madness options. Biting Rain is awesome against like red-white vehicles. We can madness it in at instant speed, give everything -2, -2. Then we draw another card with key. Very powerful because of that. Murderous Compulsion is kind of an answer to Emeralds. We can discard it with madness. Even though we're playing it in instant speed, it's a sorcery, so Emerald doesn't have protection. Kill it while it's attacking us. Also just kills anything thing, and it's a great discard to key. Then we have a bunch more counters. So Ceremonious Rejection, Negates, Summary Dismissals. The first two are great against Aetherworks Marvel decks. They help us win control matchups. Summary Dismissal is primarily for Emrakul. It can be used for other things, but that's the main reason we have Summary Dismissals, is to have another out to Emrakuls and Ulamogs from Aetherworks Marvel. So in theory, this deck should be very good at beating Aetherworks Marvel, especially after sideboarding, when we can sideboard in 6 more counter spells that are super good in that matchup. And then we have Transgressive Mind and Pick the Brain. It continues. We're not going to lose to Emrakuls. We're not going to lose to Ulamogs. That's the plan. We hit them with discard. These cards are also just great against Green-Black Delirium, Blue-White Flash, and those decks are such a huge percentage of the metagame that we have a lot of tools to fight against them. And one more Ruinous Path for Planeswalkers, and that's Blue-Black Key Control for Standard, and that's our Budget Magic deck for this week. So I'm really excited to this deck. It draws extra cards, lets us play at instant speed. I'm calling it Control, and it is Control, but it's kind of a Blue-Black Madness deck. I like that it's using Key to the City in a unique way to kind of be a control deck rather than just to make things unblockable and try to get in damage. That card is way more flexible and way more powerful than anyone gives it credit to, and I'm super excited for From Under the Floorboards. I was very hyped when that card was spoiled, and just no one has really played with it yet or figured out how to use it, so I think this is the deck, or at least that's the idea, that this will be the deck that can maximize the value of From Under the Floorboards and make it the Black Sphinx's Revelation, make it the way to finish off the game. Plus, we can just kind of grind with Errand Praias. Drawing extra cards gives us stuff to discard Haunted Deads, and does a lot of really cool stuff. So I think this deck is really powerful and really sweet. I also like where it sits in the metagame. I just think it has the tools, the sideboard, even the main deck. We have a lot of the big plans of attack covered from the 3 big decks, from Aetherworks Marvel, from Green-Black Delirium, from Blue-White Flash, and we have like the Biting Rains to fight against the aggro deck. So I feel like it sits in a pretty good place in the meta at the moment. And I'm not saying we're going to beat all those decks all the time, because they're super powerful, they're very strong, and they're the best decks, the most played decks in Standard for a reason, but it feels like this deck has a lot of tools to fight against all of the big decks in Standard. So I'm really excited for this one, and it's super cheap. What more could you want? Anyway, that's Blue-Black Key Control for Kaladesh Standard, and that's our Budget Magic for this week. So thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoy the gameplay videos, and I will talk to you soon.